Hey guys, Script here with another video, and today I want to talk about Star Wars gods, and this article I saw is the inspiration for this video. Ahsoka Theory reveals you've missed Star Wars' greatest clue to Balin's true quest. Balin's skull was left standing atop a statue of the Mortis gods on the distant planet of Peridia. Balin's search was undoubtedly one of the more intriguing elements of the show, as was Ray Stevenson as part of Ahsoka's cast of characters. Throughout the show, the former Jedi wished to uncover a way to end the ruthless cycle of death at the hands of the Jedi and the Sith. That was one of the things that I thought was kind of strange, actually, because I didn't see it as a cycle. You had, again, according to the original trilogy, according to Obi-Wan, you had peace for 1,000 generations under the Jedi, and then you had Palpatine, who was a Sith, but even Darth Maul says, it's time for us to reveal ourselves to the Jedi. They were working in the shadows. It wasn't like there was just this back and forth of like Jedis and Sith killing each other. There was 1,000 generations of peace. So the Sith were pretty much pushed to the side. Dave Filoni really wants to change what the Force is. He really wants to take away the binary nature of it, the fact that the Force is what it is and that going dark leads to bad things for you, and that you can't tap into the dark side, because if you do, forever it will dominate your destiny, as Yoda says. But they're really trying hard to get the audiences to think and be ready for this idea that that's actually not a thing. And it is a thing. It always was a thing. Part of that is to convince us that there's always been this cycle of death, and there hasn't been. There was a period of time during the Empire rule and prior to that where, yes, Qui-Gon and Darth Maul went at it, and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul went at it, and Anakin and Obi-Wan had their issues. But they're overall, over the course of the history that was laid out for us in the original trilogy, this wasn't the case. So they're trying to convince us of something that isn't really there to prepare our minds for the idea that, we need to change the Force so this stops. None of that is necessary. You can still write tons of stories with using the binary nature of the Force. You don't have to change it, but they're going to, and it's going to make the OT weird, because it goes against everything that those Jedi were talking about. This journey led to many Ahsoka theories about Balin's Star Wars quest, from the idea that Balin is searching for ancient Force deities to long-forgotten Sith Lords, with many questions raised regarding the character and his end goal. Many have been hoping that Ahsoka's Season 2 story would continue to explore the character of Balin as a way to honor both the character and the tragic passing of actor Ray Stevenson. However, despite the many theories, one Ahsoka theory claims that a subtle secret detail of Balin's character already revealed his end goal. The theory in question links to Balin's skull's name. They're named after Norse gods, Skull and Hati, Shin Hati and Balin's skull. And again, Dave Filoni's super into that stuff. He's super into like pagan Europe stories and stuff like that, and he's now trying to sort of put those into Star Wars. He did it, he's big into wolves and stuff, and he has that imagery on a lot of things now. And in Norse mythology, Skull and Hati are two beings who are locked in an endless chase with the celestial bodies, the sun and moon, respectively. The apocalypse in Norse mythology is Ragnarok, an event that only occurs when Skull and Hati catch their prey and begin the downfall of the world. Given the connections Balin and Shin have to the mythological wolves, it may already have been revealed that what Balin is seeking to enact a Star Wars Ragnarok. I've already seen a lot of this stuff in Marvel Comics, a lot of this pagan mythology and stuff. I don't see why we need that in Star Wars. We've got IPs doing that. In the original Ragnarok myth, the Cataclysm event brought about the death of major Norse gods, including Odin, Thor, Tyr. Yeah, we know that. This could inform the story of Ahsoka. They deal with this in the Thor movie. Story of Ahsoka, specifically what Balin's ultimate end goal is. If Balin is taking after his namesake and brings about whatever Star Wars version of Ragnarok is, it could see the death of the gods in that franchise. Thus far, the only gods referenced in the vast stories of Star Wars canon are the very deities Balin was shown standing on the shoulders of the Mortis gods. Now, this is sort of the point of this video. I don't understand the need for Star Wars gods. And listen, I know George had the whole wills thing. I didn't understand that either. I didn't think that was necessary. What made the Force cool was the Force was kind of like the invisible god, right? Like the Force, it was totally mysterious. We didn't know anything about it, but we knew it was this entity or this power or this being or whatever that, held the whole galaxy together and all that other stuff and was flowing through everything. And so we got the idea that was kind of the god. And it's a little bit polytheistic, I guess. It's kind of similar to, is it Sikhism? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, where like there's God in everything kind of thing. But it was very mysterious, and it didn't have a name. It's just the Force. It's just this thing we don't, And so for me, at least, that was enough. I mean, and that was a cool version of a god in the sense that it was so mysterious, but along with the mystery had those binary rules that if you try to twist and manipulate this god or this force that's outside yourself but also flowing through you, and if you try to manipulate it, you end up causing a lot of problems and a lot of death and go dark and all those things along with that. Anakin is the prime example, right? He wanted to manipulate the Force, and that in turn destroyed him and turned him into a nutcase, essentially, until he finally realized at the end that he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. But in the wake of that, you think of all the tragedy and all the death and all the problems that ensued in the Empire and blah, 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 and the oppression. So that, to me, was enough. I didn't need Mortis gods. And listen, I'm not a Clone Wars fan at all, but I have watched those episodes, and they're not bad episodes. It's not like I'm like, I hate those episodes, they're a piece of crap. They're kind of interesting, but at the same time, they're totally unnecessary. This whole thing, I believe, is leading to this idea that Dave wants to change the Force so that he's saying that Anakin is essentially, replacing the father. Like, he's good and bad, even though the father wasn't even good and bad. Even he was like telling his son, like, you can't use the dark side, the son that represented the dark, and then there was the daughter that represented the good. But why would we need that? Like, we already had a binary approach. We didn't need names and actual figures and statues of these things. Like, the Force needed to stay mysterious. Now we're going down this road that is timeless in the sense that there's a ton of stories out there that involve gods. I mean, of course, in Marvel Comics, we see that like crazy. We have that. Like, why wouldn't you want to keep Star Wars different and differentiate itself from those other stories? I get you're super into pagan stuff, Dave, but why would you want to change? Like, Star Wars was so unique in that way. And now it's just going to be like everything else. And that, to me, isn't very exciting. It's not exciting to have gods in Star Wars when, again, this is something that people have been doing forever. There's nothing new about it. Star Wars was different in that the Force was a different thing. So I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not. And again, like I said, I didn't hate those episodes, but they were totally unnecessary. And you're not going to convince me that George's intention was for Anakin to be this hybrid good bad guy, and that's kind of what they showed us in the Ahsoka show, where he's good for a while, then he starts fighting Ahsoka, and then he turns bad again, and his lightsaber changes, and then it's like, what is this? Like, and then even Ahsoka comes back, Ahsoka the Grey, like, he's copying Lord of the Rings references. It's not original. There's nothing original about that. And when she comes back, you don't really get an indication that she's sort of turning into a gray Jedi or sort of half dark side Jedi, but that seems to be the direction they're going, and then they're involving gods and all this stuff in that, and it's again, it's unoriginal. I don't need to have this in Star Wars to enjoy Star Wars. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section, but if Baylan enacts in apocalyptic events, the Mortis gods are likely to be the deities who suffer, while the Mortis gods were seemingly killed in Star Wars The Clone Wars episodes. The events of Star Wars Rebels and Ahsoka prove their will is still at work. Therefore, Baylan has likely learned about these beings, which represent the light side and the dark side and the balance in the Force. And again, that's not what balance in the Force is. And even the Father, oh my gosh, even the Father shows that. So they're trying to manipulate the audience into thinking that balance in the Force is a gray Jedi. It isn't. It never has been. Never. Balance in the Force is not manipulating it using dark side and then falling. Balance in an individual, for example, is when you are a Jedi. That's and you're not always 100% balanced. You're still a person. You still go through emotional stuff, and you still get mad and stuff. But the goal is to not be that way. The goal is to be stoic and do what's right and prevent the manipulation of the Force. Baylan has likely learned about these beings, which represent the light side, the dark side, the balance in the Force, and is seeking to bring about their demise. If he does so, the cycle of light, dark, and death he so wishes to put an end to cease to exist. But again, he's going about it he was part of the process to try and kill these people. So that's not balance. Like, him doing that isn't balancing anything. Like, right? Like, I think they're gonna try and make that the case. They're gonna do something to do with these gods. But that's not what balance is, because again, he's having to do really bad things that go against the Force's nature to just have people killing each other and stuff like that in the process of trying to do that. So he's just a dark sider. Like, there's no gray area there. He's just bad because he's selfishly going about his business. What makes this theory about Baylan's goal all the more interesting is the way it teases that Shin Hati still has a role to play. Ahsoka season 1, Shin Hati is still in Peridea, as is Ahsoka and Sabine, and the wolves, after which both characters are named, hint she will be important going forward. The Norse mythology Ragnarok only begins when both Jothar wolves catch their prey. Both the sun and the moon have to fall victim to Skull and Hati, respectively, for the world to end. If this theory is to believe, this means that both Balin and Shin will be responsible for bringing about Star Wars Ragnarok. While the two characters are separated, they are both on the planet where the future Star Wars seemingly lies, and Shin could easily reunite with her former master. Concerning how the Norse myths could connect to Star Wars, the sun and the moon, which the wolves of the former chase could be represented by the light and dark sides of the Force, respectively, this would mean that Balin's actions affect the light side of the Force while Shin affects the dark. Whatever transpires could cause Ragnarok, manifesting in Star Wars through the death of the daughter, who represents the light, and the dark side symbol, the sun. Balin's actions affect the light side of the Force, while Shin affects the dark. No, they don't. They're both dark side users. Without the son and the daughter, the father, who symbolize balance in the Force, could cease to exist. This would bring about Balin's ultimate goal in the same way the Norse counterpart ensured Ragnarok. How the story of Ahsoka gets to that point, if this theory is to be believed, is unknown. Now, the father died. The father died, the daughter died, the son's dead. They're dead. Their essence is still unpretty or something they're going to try and do. I don't know. But either way, guys, let me know in the comment section. I just don't think Star Wars needs gods. I don't get this. Again, we have this in so many other IPs, so many stories. Why would we go this road with Star Wars, which has its own distinct version of sort of a god, and it's mysterious and different, rather than like actual figures that can actually like turn on and off the Force in certain ways or whatever, like on a broad scale. And if they go down the gray Jedi route where there's like no more binary lines in it, it's just going to cause problems. It's not going to be very interesting. Star Wars was always a story about good and evil and making decisions that were either good or not. Doing this whole gray area thing, again, I think they're just trying to turn everything into Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was successful, so everything has to be like Game of Thrones now. And that's, and Andor is totally trying desperately to be like Game of Thrones. But that's not Star Wars. It's just not. It was never written that way. They're trying to change it. And I think it's going to be a disaster. It's already hitting them hard with a lot of the decisions they're making anyways. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you like the idea of gods in Star Wars, or were you satisfied with George's 6 movies and the way that the Force was kind of the god of the show? And would you like to see more of it? Do you think it makes sense that the Mortis gods are somehow still part of the story, even though they died? Let me know in the comment section. Oh, and are you hoping that the Mortis gods become other characters? Like there's this rumor that, Anakin's going to be the father and Ahsoka's going to be the daughter, and I don't even know, somebody else was going to be the son. I don't remember who it was, but like, is that appealing to you? Like, or was that arc done and we can move on and we don't need any more gods? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for listening, guys. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have a really good day.